I'm a merchant mariner, with a couple summers of sea time under my belt. I've seen some weird stuff in the Atlantic, Med, and Arctic Ocean. If anyone has any questions about ocean myths and cryptids, I'd live to give my answer. I also dive and have a degree in marine environmental science, and I've seen odd stuff while diving too. Also inviting any other sailors or divers to share stories as well. Alright. I'll start out with the siren song. It's not so much scary as it is funny, unlike the rest of what I got though. First, some background though. I'm a cadet at a maritime school. I have a MMC license, and for 3 summers, I shipped out on a training ship with about 500 other cadets. We sailed all over the East Coast and Europe. Most of these stories won't be very long, as I'm not good at green texting. Just left Reykjavik, Cap decided we had enough time to make a pit stop in the Arctic Circle to get our blue noses. Basically it's a giant party where you have to crawl through rotten food and other garbage and then get sprayed by a fire hose. That's not important though. Anyways, this happened on my last year of summer sea term. I was the mate on watch during the balls to fours shift, and basically had control of the bridge as my teacher decided he needed a nap. There are 4 lookouts that rotate from bridge lookout to bow to stern to messenger, back to bridge lookout. We're in the middle of nowhere at this point, 0 shot of seeing any other ships. Wind is howling, weather's freezing, the ship's rolling like you wouldn't freaking believe. I don't care, I'm mate on watch. I don't have to be out there in the cold lol. But because I'm a great guy, I'll let them have some of the 1/C coffee, not a 3/C rate. Go outside to give the first bridge lookout a cuppa, tell him to rotate the lookouts. Hey, Anon, someone's singing out here. I call him a retard and he leaves for bow lookout. 15 minutes later, the stern lookout relieves the bridge messenger, who goes to bridge lookout, and tells me, hey, Anon, there's someone freaking singing out here. These guys are either playing a game of telephone, or someone is singing outside. This is entirely plausible. 500 cadets on the ship, a lot of them get up to shenanigans at night. This can include anything from the LGBT club having sex in lifeboat number 2, to people having sex on 2 hatch, which is very easy to see from the bridge, to the idiot journalist who keeps printing out a weekly paper and taping it on all the doors. So I do believe it's within the realm of possibility that someone is singing at 1 in the morning. And if this is the case, and it wakes up Cap, I am freaking dead. I can't leave the bridge, so I assign the boys down at the quarterdeck to figure this thing out. These goons are supposed to go on 3 45-minute rounds a watch. I'm the security rate who checks the detect's clock. I know they go on 1 round, which involves checking 2 stations and then having a nap, instead of doing all 19 keys. So I don't really feel bad about sending them to work. Tell em some moron is singing, go find them before they wake up Captain. Half hour later and they haven't found shit, heard the singing but can't pinpoint it. Send the hooligans back to the quarter desk, screw it. If Cap hasn't woken up yet, he's not waking up. Later on, rotate the watches again. This stern lookout, who is, for lack of a better term, my homeboy, comes up to the bridge grinning his ass off. Proceeds to tell me something ridiculous. When he was at bow on the start of the watch, he wasn't alone. Turns out the prettiest cadet on the ship, a 1/C we'll call Rose, was up there shooting the shit with my 3/C homie. Rose looks like... well, imagine if Daisy was actually hot, and had an ass that looked outrageous in khakis. This guy, who I love, looks like an 18-year-old boy had sex with Danny DeVito. Anyways, supposedly Rose had been making moves on Lil Danny. She's out there in a white tank top and shorts while everyone else is bundled up in foul weather gear. Nothing physical was going on, but she kept asking him if he wanted to ditch watch, Big Trouble, and go below with her. Just as he was about to consider blowing off watch, which would make him fail cruise, he had been relieved by that original lookout I had sent out. She dips, and he heads to stern lookout with balls bluer than the Pacific. While he's back there, he hears the singing everyone else reported. Soon enough, Rose shows up again, soaking wet, either from the rain, or from dreaming about DeVito's BWC. For whatever reason, she wants this guy, bad. At this point, they start making out, and she keeps begging him to go below with her. Pretty sure DeVito was a virgin, and I don't think there's a virgin alive who would have turned down the chance to do it with Rose. She's a walking wet dream, and to make it even better she's obsessed with Warhammer and fantasy books. Again, just as DeVito's about to give in, he's interrupted by the quarter-deck hooligans I had sent out. They're bug-eyed at seeing DeVito locking lips with Rose, but loose lips sink ships, and the bozos leave without reporting to me that my lookout is about to suck and shag in middle of the Arctic Circle. Yet, who needs a lookout, right guys? Guess I'll just go screw myself when we hit a northern right whale and I go to jail for 20 years. Looks like Rose doesn't like company, because she decided slipped off again, even though the quarter-deckers are already leaving. Gives DeVito a kiss and says she'll be waiting for him back at the bow. So here we are on the bridge, as DeVito is telling me the ridiculous 2 hours that had just occurred. He's begging me to let him go to the bow. I can't think of a single way to get him there without messing up my whole rotation. Looking back, I was a dick for not helping my bro out. He's furious, but there's nothing he can do about it. Sulks for the next hour as bridge messenger. Finally, the singing dies down. Last rotation, send him out to bridge lookout. Go to bring him a coffee 20 minutes later. It's not DeVito out there. Goddamn, DeVito told the bridge lookout he was supposed to replace, that I said DeVito could go to the bow instead. Being the control freak I am, I'm literally seething. The singing is back, my lookout's gone AWOL. Enough of this horseshit. I give the bridge to a 2/C, tell her I need to take a fat one, grab my foul weather gear, I explain this thing is too nasty for the bridgehead, and head out. I get up near the bow. At this point the singing is nearly as loud as the wind. DeVito has a giggling Rose in his lap. I'm cold, I'm wet, I haven't smoked a boj all night, I don't care at this point. I'm giving DeVito a piece of my mind. Why must you keep interrupting them? Says a voice from right behind me. I yelp, spin around, and smash my flashlight into a woman's face. It's another cute cadet I know. She shrieks, and it doesn't quite sound like a noise that would come out of the mouth of a 19-year-old girl. I try to apologize, she curses me out and makes a run for the bow. Rose looks up, sees her bleeding friend, and shoots out of DeVito's lap. She hisses, actually hisses at me, and storms off with her friend, probably to sickbay or whatever. At this point, the singing flat out stopped. I expect DeVito to lose his mind, as he's been nothing but blue-balled all night long, but he doesn't. In fact, he's not doing much of anything. I take a look at him, no medical expert, but something's up, because the guy looks like he's about to doze off. Smells sort of funny too. Honestly, it smells like DeVito just busted a load in his pants. And although it's raining, there's a very noticeable wet spot on the front of his khakis. I shake him awake, make sure he's doing okay, and radio in for a quarterdeck goon to relieve bow lookout until the end of watch, which is pretty close, at this point. Sent DeVito to go get changed, he's still sulking because he didn't get to bang Rose. I head back to the bridge, finish off my watch, don't record anything weird in the log. Next day, I go talk to the girl I hit, make sure she's okay. Not only is she okay, she has no idea what I'm on about. At this point I realized something was up. Later on, eating lunch with the boys, and Rose walks past. DeVito invites her to sit down next to him. She gives him an odd look. No thanks, dude, I promised to eat lunch with my boyfriend. Poor DeVito is heartbroken, I'm just confused. I go to the quarterdeck boys and ask if they saw Rose with DeVito, they definitely agree that it was her that night. We confronted her, and she swore she never left her rack. I have no idea what happened. It was either a siren or a really weird prank. If it was a siren, I think I found out why it's bad luck to have women on ships. If it was just a prank, I now have concrete evidence that proves what we already know. Women aren't funny. Have you or your associates had any encounters with phantom divers? Yes, actually. But this story happened to my uncle, who isn't a sailor, just a diver. He was diving the Itacha shipwreck, a very cool dive that I'd love to do. The Itacha isn't supposed to be haunted, however the son of the treasure hunter, Mel Fisher, who was looking for it died at sea. I have a good source that Mel's son was super drunk when the boat sank, which led to his death. Also, Mel had some weird knowledge about the ship. He swore that there was lots of emeralds on the Itacha when it sunk, but there was never any record of that being the case. But when they found the shipwreck, emeralds everywhere. So my uncle was diving with a stranger as his buddy, and swam down to try and find some treasure, which supposedly is still pretty common on that wreck. After about 5 minutes he buddied back up with his partner. For whatever reason, this stranger assigned to him by the charter was heading way out past the wreck. My uncle didn't want to leave his partner alone, so he kept going out, trying to pull this guy back in. The guy wouldn't listen, and kept motioning for my uncle to follow him farther out. Eventually he turned around and realized the boat was nearly out of sight, so he swam back. Waiting for him there was his diving buddy. The guy had lost track of my uncle when he went to look for treasure. He ended up just partnering up with another group. At the end of the dive, everyone was accounted for on the boat, nobody admitted to leading my uncle so far away from the shipwreck, and everyone else was with their buddies the whole time. If that doesn't qualify as a phantom diver, I don't know what does. I don't know if I should do another long green text, so here's just a collection of things seen by myself and others I personally know. There's an old man in Nova Scotia who can talk to whales with a violin. In Alicante, Spain, the beggars with no limbs will try to take yours. There's a fellow in Reykjavik who pays good money for you to bring a bottle of his green liquid onto your ship. Nobody I know has agreed to this yet. He gives off bad vibes. There was a cadet with paranoid schizophrenia, or at least that's what he was diagnosed with afterwards. He bought shrooms from a woman in the Canary Islands, and took them in the middle of the ocean. He ran up and down the ship, screaming that he was in hell. Eventually, he ran into the chief engineer, who told him we're all in hell, get used to it. The cadet fell to the ground, weeping, and was confined to sickbay for the rest of the voyage. He didn't say a word for the next 2 weeks, and although he never left sickbay, he developed mild sunburn on most of his body. People down in the bayou don't talk about it with outsiders much, but there's supposedly a good reason why New Orleans is a hot spot for magicians. They say most of the old magic in America washes down the Mississippi, and New Orleans winds up with most of it. A teacher of mine fell overboard off of the Aleutian Islands. He swears there was a large, fur-covered animal in the water with him. A teacher of mine fell overboard off of the Aleutian Islands.
He swears there was a large, fur-covered animal in the water with him. I choose this story of yours for you to tell us.
Oh, geez, unfortunately there's not much to this. Teacher fell off his ship. Plain and simple, it was shit luck. Fortunately he fell off right next to a crew member, who threw him a preserver and alerted the captain. Teacher grabs the life preserver but he doesn't care, he's 100% positive his life is goddamn over. Literally in the middle of nowhere, likely to get hypothermia in 15 minutes, and die within the hour. In this state of hyper-awareness, with adrenaline coursing through his body, he notices a patch of water is murkier than the rest. Thinks it's a rock or something, but stays where he is, as he wants to stay as close to where he fell off as possible in case his ship makes it back in time. Turns out he didn't need to swim to it. The murky thing is coming towards him. He loses it. He completely panics, thinks it must be a shark or something, and starts doing his best to get the hell out of there. The ship's completed its Williamson turn, and a fast rescue boat has already been dropped. The thing is 20 feet off and closing in, visibly covered in brown fur, easily 30 feet long. The fast rescue boat picks him up, he screams at them to get the hell back. The thing is now right below the boat, waiting. It's so large it can be seen from all around the rescue boat. One seaman wants to stick his head below and see what it is, the other says screw that, and gets them the hell out of there. Whatever it was, it tried to keep up with the FRB, with little success. That's pretty much it.
Please tell us about the beggars with no limbs. I'm also curious if you have any personal stories regarding the magic of New Orleans.
Aside from the energy I felt in the oldest bar in America I mentioned earlier, no. However, one of the women on the ship got what I believe to have been a minor curse. At a bar with shipmates. Stranger comes up and starts hitting on her, she turns him down. Guy scowls and starts speaking French or something, walks away. Later on she takes out her phone, finds out it had shattered in her pocket. After that, she starts to feel odd, like she's been roofied. Maybe she was roofied, but she didn't see how. She had no drink with her when the guy had stopped by, and later on was drinking straight from bottles, and this is a woman I have a very high opinion of, who I certainly believe, even drunk, is too sly not to notice someone slipping something into her corona. She realizes her mental state has been compromised, trying to tell her friends this, but out of nowhere they turn real nasty. Like this girl, let's call her Kathy, had taken a dump in their drinks or something. Downright furious with her for no good reason. They leave her at the bar, something her friends never would do, and they were mortified the next day when they found out they did so. They had no idea why they got so angry at Kathy. Kathy tries to catch up with them, gets lost fast. Somehow finds her way back to her hotel, realizes her wallet's missing and has no way to prove her identity. She has to call up a mate in the middle of the night and have him send her a picture of the passport she keeps on the ship. After an hour they let her into her room, she passes out and has terrible nightmares. Wakes up in the morning. There's a nutria, giant rat thing, pick related, in her bed with her. Could have been a curse. Then again, New Orleans is a shithole, so it's impossible to say. There's a very old fort that the city of Alicante is built around. My friend, let's call him Lucas, had spent all day up there. Dude's Hispanic, I guess he wanted to get in touch with his roots rather than spend time on the boardwalk. It's a pretty long hike down to the city, and by the time he got down it was well past sunset. Europe is cool because a lot of the older cities are built like mazes. A single wrong turn can screw you up. Knowing Lucas, he probably took a dozen. Anyways, he ended up in a very old part of the city, like an ancient ghetto. There was a festival/party happening at the time. I forget the exact date we were there, but a quick Google search leads me to believe it was the bonfires of St. John, Hogueras de San Juan. Pretty much the whole city had gone to the festival, me included. I was wasted, but I recall very pretty women doing some very creepy dancing. Lucas wasn't as alone as he thought. I don't know if all of southern Spain is like this, but there was a noticeably high amount of beggars missing limbs. Easily a beggar without an arm or a leg in 1 out of every 3 alleys you'd walk by. As Lucas is walking through alleyways to get back home, Lucas is an idiot, by the way, he runs into one. An old, wrinkled man with nothing but a left arm is staring daggers at my friend. Lucas's Spanish is more like Spanglish, but he can get by in Spain much better than me, who only knew yo necesito el baño. The beggar has a coin in his hand. From what Lucas can understand, he wants to buy something from him, or for him to buy something for the beggar. The beggar is insisting to buy his legs. Lucas hears a noise. Behind him is a second beggar, missing his arms and mumbling to himself. At this point he realizes he's in a back alley in a foreign country with 2 schizos, and decides to bolt. The armless man shrieks, chased him for at least a block before Lucas got away. Don't talk to beggars.
Tell me about the old man in Nova Scotia, please.
7 or 8 years old, family took an RV trip in Nova Scotia. This might sound like something out of a fever dream, but I swear we went to like an Anne of Green Gables theme park or something. Mom was a big fan and planned to spend several days there, but we blew through it faster than expected. Ended up having to find odd ways to entertain ourselves, like hiking, museums, and eventually whale tours. Went down to some marina or whatever. Turns out the whale tour we had planned to go on already left. My dad never shows up anywhere on time. There's an old man there, offers to take us out on his boat for a pretty reasonable price. Guy looks like an 80-year-old Sylvester Stallone, boat's barely more than a dinghy. Takes about half an hour to get out to where he wants, haven't seen shit yet. The man takes out oh, it wasn't a violin, it was a fiddle. My bad. Takes out a fiddle and starts fiddling away. Immediately, minke whales start popping up all over the place, damn near hopping out of the water. This goes on for a while. Whenever the tempo got slower they'd settle down. Just as it seems the show's over, old man Stallone turns to me and my siblings, winks, says, "Watch this," and starts railing on his fiddle. Something massive appears. At least 4 times the size of the minke whales, much darker in color, with the oddest mouth I've ever seen. It's practically on the top of his head, and it's covered in massive white bumps. The Leviathan circles the boat a few times, fades away when the song ended. That's the moment I decided to live at sea. Later on in life I realized that was a northern right whale. There's less than 400 alive right now.
Can you please tell us about the man in Reykjavik with the green liquid?
Reykjavik was one of the nicest ports I ever visited. Everyone there is super friendly and you can be out all night and feel perfectly safe wherever you go. The only real issue is that everything is super expensive. Basically it's the polar opposite of Baltimore. I was on pier security when some guy came up to the ship. Blonde, tall dude. He wore what looked like a trench coat made out of wool, and had silver/steel rings on each finger. This guy had a milk gallon filled with bright green, nearly lime-colored liquid. He kept explaining that he worked on the ship, obviously a lie, and then changed his story to having a friend who worked on the good ol' Kilo Foxtrot whiskey. At this point I was about to radio in and get this guy de Fuke out of there, but when I pulled out my radio he took out a wad of Iceland bucks, krona, and said he'd give it to me if I brought the liquid aboard. Naturally I called the mate on watch, and the dude bolted. When he was a good long way down the pier, he poured the liquid out into the ocean. Later on, when our ship was heading out, I'm pretty sure I saw him trying to get on the corpse cruise docked next to us, one of those cruises rich old people get on repeatedly until they die. I have no idea what the liquid was. Really hope he didn't convince some grandma to bring it aboard though. My great-grandfather served in the Navy and was a part of the fleet sent to Antarctica during Operation High Jump. I don't know the name of the ship he was on. I wasn't around to meet him, unfortunately. But my grandfather told me that he only spoke about it once after they got drunk together. So I'm just gonna cut to the chase. He said that one minute it was just another boring and cold day on the ship and the next it was doomsday. He said that discs shot up out of the water at an impossible trajectory and velocity. A lot of the crew were freaking terrified and panicking. The force when they flew past put people on their ass. He said that they started shooting at UFOs and they started firing back and wrecked their shit up until they had no choice but to retreat. He thinks it was the Nazis that did that and was shit scared of them since then. I've looked into it since I was told that years ago and I believe him. I wish I could have gotten more info out of my grandfather, but that was all he knew. I wonder a lot though. If the Nazis are still out there, just what are they doing?